Your box. Make sure you reoccupy that when you decide to resell it, Justin. Oh, that's kidding, of course. I'm not going to resell this. Are you kidding me? What's got this thing? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Justin, and this is an interesting and slightly different all-tech dream. Because today we're going to do a full unboxing and setup for a product that I've been waiting on for, well, quite a while to really get into, but mostly its field of technical impressions that I've been waiting on. So here we have a, let me step to that, rather large Amazon package, and of course the knife that will be ripping it open today. Shred here. Batteries. No, actually this is not, but 48 batteries, which is always helpful to have. For a whopping $13. But no, that's not the important part. The important part is none other than the Lenovo Explorer. With the motion controllers, nonetheless. Okay, it even has a convenient carrying pouch. But yes, the Lenovo Explorer. This thing is part of the Windows Mixed Reality, which you can't really see. The Windows Mixed Reality agenda. My focus is not great. The Mixed Reality agenda is mostly Microsoft's big push for mostly aspirational branding, as Linus Sebastian has stated. It's pretty much a platform to set up the whole HoloLens thing, which is intended to be a mixture of AR and VR. As it is, though, right now, we're looking at just a VR exclusive experience. But at $269, sometimes cheaper, because recently there was a sale on the Microsoft Store where this thing went for $200 flat. Frankly, that is arguably a steal. Optimally, I would have wanted something like an Oculus Rift, but sometimes you take what you can get. There's another plastic tape that needs to be used. It's off center, curse you, Lenovo. Take a quick look at the back here, since there's not much else to look at in the front. What we're looking at here is mostly a viewer hinge, cable clip, and cameras. The head straps with the adjusting knob there. The motion controllers, compatible with the most popular computers, plug and play, room scale, and Microsoft games and content. For PC specification requirements, a list of compatible computers and laptops for Windows Mixed Reality, please visit lenovo.com/support/Lenovo Explorer. Copyright 2017, Lenovo, Beijing, Taiwan. Got a pretty decent little fold over on this. Let's get a good grasp and a freaking open. Oh yeah, here we go. So I've given a bit of a height and an increase. The words don't come out of the mouth. So I can get a good overview. So we have the documentation here, which pretty much tells us how to get things set up rather quickly. Decent enough information. It looks like 2 AA's per device, along with the little swivel hinge. Everything in here is pretty well accounted for. You get a little bit more documentation, including a nice little microfiber cloth, so you can do some cleanup on the lenses whenever you inevitably dirty them. Along with stuff like the EU directive, more extensive guide on the Lenovo Explorer, and warranty things and that type of stuff. Not too important given my situation. Microfiber cloth is always a good idea, though you would optimally want more of those. But let's look into everything that we got here. The big point, of course, is the headset itself, which is not much when it's in the bag. And here we are, the Lenovo Explorer, which is actually upside down. being careful not to touch the lenses on the inside or even the outside. That said, the outside does have this cover to it, so pretty good stuff. And yeah, oh, actually there are covers on the inside as well. Yeah, we got our basic wiring setup, which includes this 3.5mm headphone input for your little output, rather, for your headphones. No built-in audio, of course. Then we got some, I think this is the HDMI and this is the USB. Apologies if it's a little overblown right now. I'm trying to make sure I have enough lighting. That's decent little cushioning. I don't think I care much for the inside here, though. In fact, this is just kind of... I will have to figure out whether or not that's enjoyable or not and maybe look into replacements. Like going with a super generic brand of KTS batteries. That's interesting. Well, that is the box. Make sure you reoccupy that when you decide to resell it, Justin. Oh, that's kidding, of course. I'm not going to resell this. Are you kidding me? Just got this thing. Yeah, the motion controller, a pretty good sign of things to come as far as how you are going to experience everything in virtual reality. A more elegant solution in regards to unveiling the device's innards. You will notice this is in 1080p, 60 FPS. I decided to record that for this particular area. I think I will go back to 30 FPS for the longer term recording and setup phase, but we will see. That actually is not too bad. Little compact. My hands are not terribly large, but I guess for perspective, this is a PlayStation 4 controller, and this is, of course, the comparative thing. I don't have a PlayStation Move controller to compare it with, because frankly, if I did have that, I probably wouldn't have bought a headset for my PC. Grip button there, nothing there. Fair enough. Cheapy feeling little control stick, I have to say. There is no rubber grip whatsoever on this. And actually the pad is rather small compared to the HTC Vive that I got to try recently. I don't know, though. In any other case, this does feel reasonably fine. Perfectly adequate is the word that would go right with this. And there we are, a nice little overview shot of the Lenovo headset and the motion controllers. Now let's get all this set up. So this part I have substantially sped up and shortened to just kind of explain what's going on instead. I had to deal with a lot of wiring and general faults going on with the system. As it turns out, Windows 10 didn't have the HoloLens sensor driver pre-installed, so you end up having to go onto Microsoft's website to grab a version of that, which I actually show you here. And then you can finally start getting into the project where you get everything installed. The mixed reality portal starts to set you up. You pretty much get everything all configured, your controllers get set up, and then you're good to go. And really, it's just a lot of waiting after that. That really was kind of the big sticking point, was there was a lot of waiting. I was waiting on everything to pair, waiting on things to get set up, waiting on the headset to actually download whatever it was supposed to download. Just getting everything set up. That was the main sticking point to me. So one of the negative parts of this whole setup phase has been, well, kind of the complications of doing the drivers and everything. But of course, one big thing is making sure that you have enough of a play area. I had to roll up my little boundary there to make sure I had enough space here, and it's not necessarily enough. There's my tripod, which isn't necessarily in the room all the time, but it is kind of limiting my setup right now. Yeah, not the largest play space, but the hope is that it is enough. So, you see right now, these are being pretty active as far as I'm concerned. These run off of Bluetooth, so if you can do it, you should definitely see if you can find a Bluetooth 4.0 adapter of some type. I just have a generic one that I've had off of Amazon for quite a while. Comfort-wise, this really does feel alright. Not the greatest, but I think it will be perfectly fine. And of course, one of the special things about the Lenovo headsets are, well, not even just the Lenovo, the mixed reality headsets in general, is that they use inside-out tracking. I don't need to have any poles set up of any type, because all I have to do is get this thing mapped out, and it will just track these things in front of your face, as you would be able to see here. And that eventually is going to translate once this thing is done downloading whatever it's doing. And just like that, the project is apparently just about ready to go. We are looking at a room scale setup. We got the mixed reality portal. There is no activity in the headset yet. That could actually be a power efficiency method. I don't know. At this time, I'm not getting any other results besides that the portal's running. All done. If you have a headphones with a microphone, now it's time to plug in, then grab your controllers and to put on your headset. I don't see anything still. That said, these, oh, yes, we do. Not that you'll necessarily see anything. Oh. Select Run Setup. Alrighty. Looking like things are good to go here. Let's get into the games. Well, into the portal anyway. Alright, so this little segment is pretty self-explanatory. It's a day later. I've tinkered with this system for quite a while now, about 6 hours last night, and of course this is just a recorded session. Pretty much the setup process is self-explanatory. You get yourself a boundary traced, and then you make sure you got everything checked. You check all your boundaries, and more specifically, you check to see whether or not your controllers are phasing through the floor, because that controls a lot of your height differences in pretty much all of your games. If that is the case, you usually are going to have to go to a program that will let you change the room scale size and height, which is easily said than done. You pretty much just put the controller down, then press a couple buttons on the other control pad, and it sets the boundaries. After that point, which you're pretty much free to explore the cliff house that has been given to you gracefully by Microsoft. It's an interesting environment, but it's not necessarily the most efficient one. You're going to be dealing with a lot of Windows apps, which if you're used to the Windows apps, that's perfectly fine. For me, though, I've had more problems lately than anything else with those types of things. Microsoft Edge is just kind of clunky. Things like the Microsoft Store don't seem to work half the time. In fact, it seems like even now, a lot of the built-in mixed reality stuff isn't necessarily the most stable stuff. I imagine a good part of it was because I was recording, but that's a pretty bad sign if you can't necessarily make videos while you're in the headset. That's not going to work out so well. It was frustrating enough that I eventually just jumped straight into a game, and fortunately one of the early examples that has kind of set off pretty well has been Gun Spinning VR, a game that is interestingly on the Xbox as well, despite not having a VR headset for the Xbox. But hey, maybe that's a sign things are going to come along. Surprisingly fun little game. It's not too complicated. You pretty much just shoot at zombies, you click your grips in to spin your guns, aka reload them, and you pretty much just keep killing a bunch of zombies. There is a story and a survival mode as well as training. I was in the survival one because I didn't want to do anything much more complicated. And then I jumped straight into Minecraft. Probably the most ambitious thing and one of the special things that Microsoft has on offer. This is
completely built with Windows Mixed Reality in mind. Now, there is an option for other headsets in the form of Vivecraft, but I'm not going to try that, and honestly, from my experiences in this, I'm not sure I care that much to try. Minecraft is cool. I will admit that. It is a very cool experience. And the fact that it's using the UWP version makes it pretty good and efficient. I really hate the Java version for its performance. But that said, I don't care for this control scheme, and frankly, the immersion is almost unbearable, frankly. Minecraft is a hard enough game for me to get into, and then putting it into a VR scenario makes it more uncomfortable than anything else, because you're dealing with a lot of dark spaces, which exacerbate the fact that you're using an LCD display over an OLED display. And then, of course, the controls are just generally awkward. You're using one stick to move around, and then you're having to use your head, basically, to actually aim. And this is the type of situation where if you're moving your head around a lot, you're probably going to get tangled up pretty quickly by your wiring. The wireless solutions can't come sooner. I'm not necessarily sure how immersive the experience really is. I just know I started to notice weird vertigo pretty quickly. Smooth locomotion is, I guess, something I'm not yet used to, which is probably the whole thing about this experience. You can actually see in this bit that I just kind of start to slump back, and I pretty well have to stop recording at that point because, frankly, I'm more than certain it's going to cause problems if I keep going on like that. So in conclusion, what are my first impressions and opinions about the Lenovo Explorer mixed reality headset? Well, from a fit and finish perspective, I think the mixed reality headset that Lenovo has on offer here is pretty well built. I've heard negative things about things like the Acer headset, for example, how it doesn't necessarily clamp onto the head very well and that it doesn't rest well where it's supposed to be, the eyes. I personally think that is perfectly fine. The clamp system is pretty nice. It's the fact that all it does is lift off, you put your eyes into the headset area, and then you slip it down and clamp it down. Really ergonomic and really functional. The cushioning on the inside of the clamp area here is pretty nice and very soft, reminding me of real shoes, actually. The inner padding that rests upon your head, your face mostly, is functional enough, and luckily it, like the rest of the padding, is all using Velcro, so it's pretty easy to replace it when need be, and that's going to be a very good sign when the future comes to replace such things after many hours of sweat-filled glamour. The look is generally pretty nice. I think Lenovo has a good thing when it comes to their design architecture. Very plain and very simple, but very functional in that same respect. The tracking on the cameras is sort of hit and miss, and of course, a big part of that is because it's inside-out tracking. You're going to have to deal with a huge percentage of issues that could arise because of that. You're looking at the possibility that if it's not within range, you're going to be losing sight of your controllers. You're going to be at risk of a little bit less accuracy when you're aiming things, weird flickery weirdness and stuff. Just possibilities that can arise. But overall, I think the tracking on the inside here is pretty functional in that respect. Which does bring me to the controllers. They are comfortable, I will say that much. They are reasonably comfortable. After a couple hours, they can get a little bit more grating, and I do think certain things are wrong with it. The small trackpad isn't so great, especially if you're looking into playing Steam VR games. That's definitely going to hurt some of your experiences. And the lack of any rubber grip on the control stick is an absolute mistake, and that needs to be addressed as soon as a version 2.0 comes out. That has to be addressed. It's possibly already been dealt with in Samsung's Odyssey HMD, but I don't know. I don't have that headset. The triggers are sort of hit and miss for me. I feel after rapidly hitting at it, it can be very uncomfortable because you don't necessarily have a good place to rest the rest of your fingers, so pulling your trigger will end up causing your hands to kind of slip away from it over time, which makes it a little bit less ergonomic. Battery life seems fine from my experience. I'm still using the ones that were brought in with the box, and it's gotten it through about 6 hours of constant use, and I'd say that that's pretty reasonable when you're expecting a couple game sessions. That said, I would still purchase a bulk set of batteries, just because there's always a chance you're going to have to switch them out, and because they use 2 at a time, you're definitely going to be going through a couple of them. The biggest thing is, at this price point, is it worth it? In comparison to an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive, or even a non-PC solution like the PlayStation VR. PlayStation VR is in its own realm, I believe, and that's really something that you should look into if you have a PlayStation 4 Pro. I don't necessarily think it's recommended if you have a slim or an original PlayStation 4. You're going to have more problems than anything else with frame rate and resolution. On the PC side of things, though, the Oculus Rift is a pretty decent idea as far as I can tell. The controllers are supposed to be incredible, and I think that's a good sign that there are a lot of good games being produced with the Oculus Rift in mind, with its capacitive control in comparison to just the way that this works. The idea that you can lift your fingers off and it will actually respond in your game is a very interesting idea, but also something I think could be waiting on, since apparently HTC is working with Valve on knuckle gloves to deal with that issue in a more analog fashion. Not to mention, when you get down to it, the price tag for the Oculus Rift gets pretty close to that of the HTC Vive itself, because $400 does get you the headset, as well as the touch controllers and 2 sensors. But to get proper room scale experience, you need to have a third sensor, which is $60, and that means by that point, you are nearly at the cost of an HTC Vive, which you could just as well have jumped up to and gotten a premium experience. Both of them are premium experiences, but I've personally had the pleasure of experiencing the HTC Vive, and I think beyond some of the issues I had with it, it is a very compelling offer. You are looking at very comfortable wands that seem to have pretty good tracking from what I could tell, far more experienced than this one anyway. But I had issues with the inner pupillary distance as well as the lens depth. I think those are things that I could have configured and I could have had a much better time with. Which is a major complaint with this, is that you won't be able to configure the lens depth, which is to say how far the lenses are away from your eyes, as well as the inner pupillary distance, which is how far away the lenses are from each other, which is a huge point of how you are able to see things in a virtual world. But at $265, nearly $140 less than the Oculus Rift, and even still about $250 from the HTC Vive. Is this worth it? I think so. I think if you are looking at a headset and you are willing to deal with the compromises of a slightly less impressive screen, because it's LCD over OLED, and slightly worse tracking because you'll have to be dealing with inside-out tracking, I think this is a perfectly suitable scenario. Not to mention, if you are living in a smaller location or you're in an area where they're mounting little towers that read where your location is aren't necessarily the most optimal options for you. You rent a house, for example, or you just have what I have, which is a small bedroom that needs to be changed substantially to really accommodate everything. This is a great solution. Even better if you, say, have a laptop and you use that on a constant basis. The idea that you could take that laptop with you as well as the headset and show your friends how awesome it is to be in virtual reality, that's a great and really compelling reason as to why I think Windows Mixed Reality is still a perfectly good solution. Personally, I think I'm going to get a lot of time out of this. I've only gotten to really dabble with the Windows Mixed Reality experiences, and I'd like to come back to this when I have some experience in Steam VR. So yeah, that's my opinion. If you like this video, then go ahead and hit the like button. If you have enjoyed what I've said, hit the subscribe button. And with all that said, my name has been Justin. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great day and night cycle.